And fellow News Nation Washington correspondent Joe Khalil is also at tonight's White House Correspondents Dinner, joined by about 2,600 others in attendance, including members of the press and media organizations, administration officials, members of Congress, celebrities, dignitaries, other invited guests, the list goes on. So, Joe, I know this is your first time there. I've never been there. I've always watched it on television as well. Is there anything that's standing out to you in the room tonight?
I think the thing that is standing out again as a first-timer here is just that something you touched on last hour, which is people that are rubbing shoulders and talking to each other and just mingling that you would never, ever expect in the same room. I mean, it's just such a different collection of people than you would ever see at any other event. I mean, as I'm talking to you now, I'm looking at a whole bunch of very heavily armed Secret Service agents, right next to celebrities and musical artists and journalists and politicians, and even politicians that are on different sides of the aisle. It's like everybody sort of checks their, titles at the door, and it's just a big group of people in there talking, having a nice time. So I think that's the thing that's really stood out to me, that you kind of expected and you knew that that's what it was, but to really see it is something quite unique.
That is wonderful to hear. I also wonder, there's some pretty heavy topics that are going to be covered. I know that we mentioned that President Joe Biden is going to be talking about some that are being held overseas.
Yeah.
And so, how is that marrying up with tonight's kind of lighter, comedic air? Is there a tone of seriousness? I know that we're seeing, or at least Kelly had mentioned that some people are wearing pins saying "Free Evan," of course, for the journalist who's being held in Russia. So how are those two tones coming together?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tough balance, right? But, we've seen this before in the past. People know this event because of the comedy, right? We're expecting funny things from Roy Wood Jr. and, the sort of self-deprecating nature President Joe Biden is going to go up there and do. And so we want to laugh tonight and be light and have a good time. But they do have to marry that along with the seriousness of talking about journalism, about the importance of what this job actually is and the dangers for people like Austin Tice, who are in Syria, like Evan Gershowitz, who right now is being detained in Russia. I mean, these people have literally put their lives on the line for this important work. And we've been to events before where there is both comedy, there's the Gridiron Dinner as well. I was at last year where we had the same kind of thing. They're able to do it. It usually starts off with the program itself hasn't really begun yet, but when it does, they usually start off with the serious stuff, and they will end with the lighter tone and joking. But that first part really is substantial, Kelly, and it's very important. And it's very clear that people take that seriously, from the president on down. I mean, at the end of the day, White House Correspondents Association is a journalistic enterprise, right? And it's important to recognize the work. Not that we do, talk about self-glorifying or anything like that, but really the people that are overseas putting their lives on the line. It's nice to see the president and the celebrities who are here really recognize that work.
It certainly is, Joe, and I appreciate you highlighting that. There's been a lot of talk about the president, his age, the campaign that's coming up. What do you think in terms of his demeanor tonight? Do you think that that's going to be something closely watched and talked about after tonight? And what do you think he's going to try to do with his platform this evening?
Oh, yeah. Definite yes to answer your question. That, I think, is for sure going to be a topic. I would be shocked if the age question didn't come up from the host, Roy Wood Jr., and I'd be shocked if President Biden himself didn't acknowledge it. He's made jokes about his age before. I think there is always an incredible amount of scrutiny around any president, their mannerisms, their tone, what they say, every day, no matter what, no matter who is in office. But specifically with this president, because we know that there are those questions as he's, preparing a run for a second term. So I think you're going to have a lot of eyes on him, but I don't think he's going to shy away from it. In fact, I actually heard there was a dinner last year similar to this one. It's not the same thing, but a similar dinner that he did a video message for and also cracked some jokes and stuff about his own age. So fully expect that to happen and for those kinds of things to come up. And I also am certain there are going to be a lot of eyes watching how he does and the tone and everything else.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.